this crazy climate that we are in, and in terms of, you know, trying to figure out this job, I'm
Yeah.
sure has not gotten easier, you know, over the last year. And you guys already have a very difficult job to do. I mean, of course, we're talking a little bit about Central Park, but really, you know, all these type of TV shows, music is such a big part of it, and especially this type of a show where it's really kind of like in the DNA of the show. It's more or less the star, and you guys have to figure it out. So, what was the last year like in terms of trying to do all that?
It was wild. Yeah, when we began writing season two, we were about one or two songs in when this all happened.
Mhm.
Um, so it was crazy, and there was a big question mark of like, how are we going to possibly make this all work?
Yeah.
Um, but we really owe so much to the music team and to our producer Janelle Momery,
Sure.
who, you know, by day three had over 200 employees or something like that, like set up from home with home offices, with they got the whole cast set up with the availability to record from home, with whole entire like sound recording setups. And yeah, I mean, it took a lot of patience and a lot of teamwork to make it work, but we just felt so lucky to continue working on this show while everything shut down. It was like the only bit of normalcy in our lives at the time. And it was sort of our bright ray of hope and sunshine in such a dark, weird time.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. And I would have to imagine, you know, I've been talking to a lot of producers about producing during COVID, and, you know, just setting up voice records, you know, for normal speaking roles. That's one thing. Setting up voice records so that it's for singing has to be in and itself almost a science, like, because now you're having to adjust for, you know, acoustics. You have to make sure the acoustics of wherever is being recorded is really kind of sound. What was that like in trying to, I mean, is it a lot of takes, a lot more takes than usual? I mean, what was that experience like?
Yeah, the recording process was really funny because we would do everything over Zoom, and the engineers were just amazing, and all the actors were so patient. And we were hearing them singing from their closets, their garages. You know, there was a lot of talk of pillows and blankets being stacked, and you know, you could just envision these people being in their little sound forts in a
Sure.
position they never anticipated being in. Because nothing is like getting to go to the studio and interacting and
Sure.
seeing that person, you know, through a glass, albeit, but still, we missed that so much.
Mhm.
But everybody was in such good spirits and was so patient. And I think it's because that was the highlight of their day and our day. We're having something to look forward to and make each other laugh. And it kept us connected in a time where connection was everything because
Mhm.
we all were so isolated.
Sure, sure. And I mean, and I'm sure that's, I mean, so compare, so for a layman like myself, and potentially anybody who's, you know, reading or about this or whatnot, what would it be like, you know, what's that process like before in terms of trying to put together some songs, and then what were the areas that you think were most challenging and just trying to figure out in whether it's pre or post production for all the wonderful music you guys put together?
Um, yeah, I'd say like with us, like it's never it's always a really fun challenge. And with season two, the challenge was okay, now we spent an entire season setting up these characters and setting up the musical voice of the show. So now how do we keep developing that?
Yeah.
And how do we take it in directions that are unexpected? So the writers and Lauren and Josh and the creators, like they had such brilliant ideas of how to do that in season two. And we really just got to go along for the ride because generally they come to us and they say like, hey, we're thinking a song here, it would be these characters, we need like this and this and this to happen. And we're like, okay, great. So we take that prompt and we go think of how we can best like solve the puzzle, how we find the key to the puzzle, and how we basically can accomplish taking a storyline from point A to point C. And that's what we love to do. We love that challenge. So it was always a blast. And I think overall, like the biggest challenge of the season was just how do we keep this interesting for our viewers, and how do we keep evolving these characters? And that's why you'll see in season 2, like we really step outside the norm of what we established in season 1. And it was really fun to be able to do that, and really exciting.
What in terms of your two working relationship? Like, I'm sure you guys, usually when there's a collaboration, a musical duo, there is almost kind of like this sixth sense that's kind of built between the two, that they're able to you kind of almost know what the other one's thinking a little bit in certain situations and producing. And does that change at all? Because I'm sure it's not like you guys were right next to each other anymore. I don't know if that was the case. You guys are also having to get used to each other and the working relationship with each other in a different sense. Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, no, you absolutely are. Yeah, we were isolated for those first few months, and I remember it was devastating, because the two of us love to take walks together, and like we do a lot of our thinking doing that kind of thing. Throughout the years, we've developed a writing process that is pretty efficient. So we don't always need to be in the same room to write, because we really have developed that same brainness that you were talking about, and that shared language between each other, and that understanding. But I think the challenge was not having those extracurricular times together where we really do connect, and where we come up with our best ideas, and where we make each other laugh, like just on the fly, not just sitting down to work.
What about your take, Elyssa? What your experience in trying to adapt to that?
Yeah, we were so grateful, because having these songs to write for season 2 was our way of staying connected. And like Kate said, we naturally do a lot of passing back and forth over email, over phone, if we can't be together. So it was just really kind of jarring to have all the rest of it taken away, to take away the spending time together. And then so it became almost a desperation of sending her something that I know would make her laugh, because everything else was just so dark. And the songs became a lifeline. And I think we always have this process of trying to impress the other person, or trying to make the other person happy or laugh or feel better. We just naturally always try to uplift each other, and then hope that the song does that for whoever hears it. But I would say that was amplified times 10 during the writing for season 2, because it was just infused with this desperation to make Kate laugh that day, and then to make the showrunners laugh that day, because we knew that all they had was getting that email and hearing the song or reading the lyrics. And I mean, it felt so amplified is really the only word that I can come up with.
So I was telling Kate before we came on the call, I'm about a half hour outside of New York City, Elyssa, and one of the things I don't think I'll ever forget in my entire life is walking downtown and just no life whatsoever, just a complete quietness. And it really, I mean, it was still and I lived outside of here after 9/11, after Hurricane Sandy, after a lot of big things hit our tri-state area. And I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And I bring that up to say, how is it possible to write uplifting songs, especially, and kind of the pathos of it is Broadway in New York City and Central Park and the excitement of being in the city. But somehow trying to find those lyrics or songs and pulling that out of you in such a weird time. Like, that's because I know songwriting is very much about, you know, inspiration and things of that sort, and I'm sure that kind of all fell to the side, you know, fell to the wind too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I saw someone post the other day and they were like, I think if we learned anything from this year, it's how vital theater and the arts are
Yes.
to our society. And if they weren't, they would have disappeared by now.
Mhm.
And I think that's so true. And yeah, I mean, gosh, like here we all were um, during this time when the term essential worker became this thing that like we hadn't really ever like had before, had to use so often in our society.
Yep.
And everybody else who wasn't an essential worker, I think we all just felt helpless. You know, we felt useless. We felt like, oh, all we can do is support these people who are the true heroes right now. Um, and so I think the small way that I think Elyssa and I felt like we could help and contribute was just to hold our heads up high and try to write songs that would uplift people
Mhm.
and try to channel the pain we were feeling into songs that would resonate with people, or even channel the joy we were feeling of the days that were brighter into these songs that would bring silliness and a smile to someone's face. And that's what we keep hearing over and over about Central Park, right? Like Apple TV, I think a lot of their content is this. It's really joyful content.
Yes.
It's just joyful. Like that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Ted
And
Lasso, I
Central
think, is
Park
proving
is
that right now,
Ted
right?
Lasso, exactly.
Yeah.
And Central Park's right in there with them. Like
Yeah.
it is TV that is just supposed to make you happy and smile and forget about things for a while. And I rhymed. And that's that's what we felt our job was during that time, I think.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
And the characters within Central Park and the world is just one that naturally focuses on the positive and the goodness in humanity.
Mhm.
That's one of the reasons why, I mean, Elwood is our favorite character because he's just so good. He just emanates goodness, and Birdie as well holds it all together with that just innate goodness. And so getting to stay in that world, in the
Mhm.
world of positivity and family and love and optimism, that
Mhm.
was a blessing for us to be able to write for optimistic characters, helped us stay optimistic in that time.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, I can only imagine there's probably some therapy that comes with it too, a little bit, you know, helping you cope. So
Mhm.
you mentioned a little bit about the writing of the music and working with Josh. Josh obviously, you know, really kind of came to us, you know, from that Broadway world. You know, Book of Mormon, obviously such a pivotal role for him. I think what really catapulted him and got people like Andrew and all these guys. So is there a difference, do you think, in developing songs and music that is supposed to have that Broadway spirit with someone who's done it before? Do you think there's that added bonus of somebody who's done it versus people, you know, maybe working with even songwriters, even if you're a songwriter and never having done Broadway? I'm wondering if there's a subtle difference there between the nuances and the approach to how those songs come to life.
Yeah, we were from the very beginning, from even the pilot of Central Park, we were going into it knowing that Josh really wanted the Broadway feel,
Mhm.
but Lauren wanted it to be really something fresh and eclectic, which is why there's guest artists who come in and write songs, and the cast is so eclectic vocally. So I think the beauty of that is that you have a show that is a love letter to a Broadway musical, but it also is its own completely unique entity. And we love writing for it for that very reason, because we can write an opening number that you know seems like it would be on a in a Broadway show, and then the next song we write is completely different and just more pop, or just, I mean, Keep It Low Key is a really good example of just, yeah, it's just its own thing. I don't even know what you would call that. And
Sure.
we got to just play around this season. And Lauren Bouchard was really encouraging and wanted us to be ambitious, which is why we get to write songs like A Moment Forever Ago, which are not your typical Central Park animated musical feel. You know, it really dove into the sentiment and the emotion in that episode, and getting to take risks like that, I think, helps it not just be one thing. It's not just a Broadway sounding score. It's really diverse, and I love that.
Yeah, I think it's great that we have a cast that's like a lot of Broadway vets, right?
Yeah.
But then we've got a couple like people who are like, oh my gosh, I would never sing on a Broadway stage, which of course is ridiculous. Like Catherine Pond doesn't fancy herself a singer, but she's incredible. and you know, and then Stanley Tucci too, and they just bring this, level of like a human, I don't know, a human element to it of just somebody who's really in touch with the character, and it just comes across so lovely and so fun and so lively is the other word I would use. And it's just like, what a blessing to have such a talented cast, and they all work together so beautifully. So I think it's like we've got the best of both worlds a little bit, you know?
Sure. So what feeds the lyrics and the music? Is it reading a script first and then that feeds it? Or do you think it's more the music kind of has to feed the script a little bit on a TV show, and especially on an animated series where you know, you also have to think about the animators and reacting to, you know, sequences and whatnot. What's that trying to get all these different levels together into one cohesive unit?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it changes. It's not always the same process. Sometimes we're writing to script, sometimes we're writing from outline. And then our song is sort of like more influential than it would have been had it just come out of script. What's really cool is that like they encourage us to become visual with the song. So we do write in a lot of action or visual ideas along with the song. And oftentimes that's what we then see on the screen, which is really cool for, you know, just to see like our imaginations make it all the way. But it is such a collaborative process, and it is such a dance back and forth to make it all work cohesively. But I think it's like, it's not just the songs inspiring the story. Like so often it's vice versa. And then I think it just like, then sometimes like when we put it to storyboard, a beautiful idea comes out. Like a good example is like there's a comic book episode. And I think like it started just with this idea of like Molly being different people, but then it became this insanely gorgeous sequence of like Molly dividing it into a million pieces. But then that inspired us to make it sound like it's actually a million Mollys singing together in different harmonies. So it just depends song to song, but it's always really collaborative.
What do you think, Elyssa, on that? Same sentiment, you think?
Sorry, what was that?
What did you think on about that? Any input on this the script reading feeding the music, or the music feeding the script?
Yeah. I think we're always I mean, it's always like Christmas to us when we are given either an outline or a script, and there are so many goodies inside the script or the outline that just make us so inspired to run off and write music for it. And generally the showrunners are so helpful because they'll have kind of a genre in mind, but then they really have been kind enough to let us try out fun things and kind of let the music just get wacky, which is, I mean, it's like a dream job because they give us a long, what's the phrase? A long rope,
Leash.
a long leash. Yeah.
Long leash.
A long leash. So we get to really play around. And if they weren't so brilliant on their end, I don't know that the show would be as cohesive as it is.
Yeah, sure. And I'm sure, you know, just having that collaboration always helps too, different viewpoints.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some that working on the show has helped you guys, you know, play around with different genre types of music. Were there any that you hadn't really tackled before that you had to tackle for this show that was a fun challenge to try to get over?
Yeah, there have
Yeah.
been a lot.
Really?
I know in episode 6, you know, the beginning is a flashback to the 70s, and we had never had to do sort of like a disco type song. And so that was really fun to play around with young Bitsy is singing, which is hilarious because it's, you know, Bitsy is voiced by Stanley Tucci, but then young Bitsy is voiced by Kayla Settle. So it's just hilarious to me when she starts singing. It's amazing. So yeah, that was one genre that I'm thinking of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I personally had not written a ton of I guess that hip hop style that David does so well. And especially in season 1, we did a lot more of that. And because it just felt right. Like you have this incredible hip hop artist like David, like you want to give him something worthy of his talents. And so getting to, especially as a lyricist, like figure out how to write like that was a fun challenge. And I think I feel like I've gotten better at it. I wouldn't say I'm like great at it yet, but there's been improvement.
Do you have your favorite musical genres that you like to listen to? And then when you're brought something like a disco or hip hop, do you then try to listen to what's out there and then, you know, contemporary or past stuff and say, okay, this is the pathos we're kind of looking for. Let's listen to this to get some ideas on what maybe this should sound like.
Oh yeah.
I think
any specific artists that you guys pulled from?
Trying to think. I forget. Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
There was a song I remember Lauren pushed us to listen to called Soy Yo. I'm forgetting exactly who the artist is, but there are examples like that where Lauren would say, check this person out. Like they're really inspiring. And not that you have to do exactly this, but it's sort of just like people who are pushing boundaries and that sort of thing. Yeah.
You have to keep how open of a mind you have to keep for that type of music, for any type of music, like because maybe you have like a personal taste versus the professional taste. Like, you know, do you have to clash with that sometimes?
Yeah, I think there was a fun finding of tone that happened specifically in season 1. I think we were pushed really hard to figure out what this show was going to sound like. And not everybody's vision is always going to be the same. So then you end up, which is a good thing, because then you end up kind of in this cool Venn diagram stage of whatever's in the middle of what everybody wants becomes the way the show sounds. And that happened a lot because I remember like we were kind of sent a lot of songs from Hair, the musical, which was like, yeah, we love Hair, but every song we write can't sound like Hair, right? No, we probably shouldn't. We should probably come up with our own sound. But that being said, you know, that gave Owen's character his own kind of flavor because his sound gets to be infused with some of those folk artists and 70s artists. And that, I think that would not have happened had they not loved Hair so much.
So the show has been picked up for a third season, which is awesome. And I think it just goes to show all the hard work every level is doing for this one. And I would love to know, are there any genres that you haven't tackled before, or ideas for music you haven't really had a chance to play with that you would like to have an opportunity to do so in an upcoming season, whether it's on Central Park or something else? Is there something that you've always wanted to kind of showcase that maybe you haven't had a chance to yet?
That's a great question. I mean, for me personally, like coming from a classical voice training and a love of like choral music and singing in a choir my whole life, like I think it'd be fun to push classical on something, and like really go back to that kind of style.
Are you talking like classical orchestral, like a
Yeah,
Beethoven-ish type stuff?
yeah, maybe opera. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe not with Central Park, but something. I don't know. I'm excited to continue to show the world the range of what I know Elyssa and I can do.
What about you, Elyssa? Any particular genre you've always or style of music you always wanted to tackle Central Park that you think would be a good fit?
Yeah, I have this dream of being able to do an all sung through episode of Central Park.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that would be really cool, but not in the Les Mis way, where it's like a lot of the recitatives are just sort of I mean, Les Mis isn't all sung through, but I just mean in like I would want to play with those recitatives and not have them be so like I don't know, like kind of do a contemporary sung through musical that's really pop, but has the ability to like become its own genre, because I don't know that there's a word for that yet, other than
Right.
like they call it operetta, right, Kate? When something is sung through completely. And I know the term rock opera,
Yeah,
but
rock opera, operetta.
like, what about pop opera? You know, a popra. Let's make a popra.
Opera. Let's do
Yeah.
a opera.
Do you have a particular type of pop, Elyssa, that you want to pull from? Is it 90s pop? Is it Madonna era pop? Is it Brit pop? Do you have a specific pop that you kind of like the most?
Yeah, I really am into just like the current pop that's out there. Like, I
Okay.
love it so much. And I
Like
think,
current singer-songwriter.
Gotcha.
yeah, sort of, like if Taylor Swift did a sung through show, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing.
Sure. And wouldn't it be great if it was on your show? So
If only.
if only, right? All right, everybody. So we're at the end of our half hour here. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about Central Park season 2. And I'm so looking forward to see what you guys bring to the table for season 3. It's only getting better every episode and every season. So thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to hopefully talking with you two again about all the wonderful music. And hopefully next time it's, not all on Zoom.
Yeah,
I have such
lovely.
Zoom fatigue right now. It's
I know.
but all right, everybody, thanks so much, and have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks so much.
Yeah, take care.